Welcome to the Rabbit Hole Fantasy Football Podcast, thoughts, analysis, and information to help you succeed in your fantasy football leagues. I am here with Tyler.
Hey.
And our producer, Mitchell.
Hello.
And today we are talking Day 2 Rookie Draft, where we'll do our best to break down some of the things we like or don't like about their play, and of course landing spots and the impact that will have on their chance for fantasy success. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm here with Tyler and Mitchell, as I said. Tyler, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good.
Awesome, man. So we got some Day 2 stuff here to go over. I think we should start with wide receivers, and we'll go ahead and start with Keon Coleman out of Florida State. First pick of round 2 for the Buffalo Bills. He's a receiver with good size and acceleration, great reach, excellent hand strength on contested catches, great at making defenders miss and getting upfield. Run after catch is right up there with the best of them, and he can seemingly effortlessly adjust and catch the ball away from his body. People seem to laugh the pick off, and I'm kind of included in that, if I'm being completely honest. But I kind of don't anymore, though. After excessive digging, I like what I see. I really do, and the landing spot seems right. As far as all the people laughing still, Tyler, am I missing something? I mean, everything I said was all pretty much pros. There is obvious cons. But what do you think of Keon Coleman?
I like Keon Coleman. I think some of the problem is how we got to that round 2, pick 1. I mean, the Bills traded back twice.
Sure.
And I think a lot of the problem is people are saying, well, you decided you're going to go Keon Coleman versus Xavier Worthy, Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette. And I think those arguments could be made. I personally think Xavier Worthy is better. I think Ricky Pearsall is better. Legette,
I'd take Coleman over Legette.
Would you?
Yeah. I think that was the right move there.
We know they traded back and not getting a lot for those trade backs, but, you know, productive kid at 2 top-level schools, Michigan State and Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has the potential to be a really good possession receiver in the NFL.
I do too.
He caught a lot of short passes, a lot of screens. There wasn't as you watch the highlights and you see all these downfield catches and stuff, and they're great. And
sure,
I mean that body size. If he can learn how to do that at the next level, go up and get those catches, I think that's great. I love the opportunity here. Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel are there, but Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis gone. Josh Allen is your QB. A lot of good here for Keon Coleman. The landing spot is definitely helpful for him. I know if Keon Coleman goes to the Panthers, or I maybe don't feel as good about that, but with this, I feel good.
I love the landing spot, man. I mean, it's immediate chance at minimum.
Yeah, I think he's on the field out of the gate. And there's some target hogs here with Dalton Kincaid. And I will say with Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator, once he took over, it was definitely more of a run-heavy approach. And I don't know. I think there's a dividing line there, whether you think Curtis Samuel is going to be, and I think that has to do with a lot of people's opinions on Keon Coleman and as far as him with fantasy success, is what success do you think Curtis Samuel will have in this offense?
Well, like you said, with Joe Brady taking over and a more run game, he might want to emphasize a little more of the short pass game, and they might have to. And with Keon Coleman's ability for the short pass game and the possession guy and, you know, being real effective with screenplays, it might just be a perfect fit. And maybe that's just what they saw. And if that's the case, and they're going to consider him a go-to type player because they like the way that he plays football, then I don't see how that's a negative as far as fit goes and fantasy relevance.
Rather slow.
He's great after the catch.
Rather slow 40 time at 4.61.
That's where all the laughing.
Very good burst. But the burst
is great.
Like, you watch the screens, the burst is there.
I completely agree. So I think you know, there's nothing to be real afraid of. There's a couple guys like this next guy we're going to talk about. I think I actually would take over him, but that's just a personal preference. And if you like Coleman more, then that's fine. But Lad McConkey, Georgia, second pick of round 2 to the Chargers, hyper athlete, great cut, flexibility, very intentional route runner who wins stems at will with hard head fakes and jab steps. I love the way he runs routes. Lead at finding the blind spots and creating damage with high level rack ability. A little below average frame. He can be a little out muscled at times. His durability can be a question. 2 previous injuries in 2023, I believe it was neck and ankle. But I love the talent. I love the landing spot. I'd take him probably right after Worthy, somewhere before Pearsall and Leggett. I really like Lad McConkey. I love the landing spot, and a lot of people are going to push back on that because it's a hardball offense. Well, you know what? Andrew Luck at Stanford threw plenty under Harbaugh. And to have a guy like Justin Herbert, I don't think you really ignore it. And then to go back to the whole landing spot thing, who else is there? Who else is there? I mean, what do you think, Ty? Are you as high on Lad McConkey as I am? I really like Lad McConkey.
Opportunity.
Yep.
It's all opportunity.
Opportunity
with Lad
equals points.
Yeah, when you're and just a lower back sprain and ankle sprain were what he missed time for last year.
Okay.
One of the things with Lad McConkey is he's way faster than he looks. Like the 40 times shocked me. Like when I started doing my research, you watch the tape and you watch it, but then he is actually very fast. DJ Chark, Quentin Johnson, and Joshua Palmer, who I have projected as the 3 wide receivers. So I think he's day 1 starter.
Fact that he's drafted by the new regime.
Elite level quarterback, new regime draft, exactly. Yeah, I love the landing spot for Lad McConkey. Keenan Allen's gone. Mike Williams is gone. A lot of targets to be had there. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And a lot of people are down more for whatever reason on Justin Herbert. I'm not. I don't think there's anything wrong with that offense. I think it's perfectly fine, and I think it's fantasy friendly. And I think Lad McConkey is one of those guys who it's like immediate impact because of opportunity and who's not there, essentially. So you're in on him. You don't have any pushback.
And to me,
no real negatives. Nothing he can overcome.
I think separation with him. Like with a 4.39 speed, I guess I would like to see more separation, and maybe that'll come. Maybe to see. Sometimes at the top end, he has 4 yards on his routes, and other times it seems like it's pretty tight there. So if I was going to have one knock with him, I would say maybe just be nice to see a little bit more separation with that speed. But just him, in my opinion, being on the field day 1 with a quarterback at Justin Herbert's level is enough that opportunity.
The new regime thing means a lot to me personally. I take that pretty heavily into account. They clearly wanted him. I mean, second pick of round 2.
You're letting go of some pretty solid wide receivers in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. So, you want your own guys in there, possibly with McConkey, and I like it.
I've seen him find some blind spots sometimes, and defenses just straight up panic when he gets the ball. I don't know, man. He's just elite when he gets the ball in space, and he's elite at getting to that space. Does that make sense? And in an offense where people are going to say, well, they're going to run all that. Well, okay, well, that oftentimes means a lot of quick short attack type passing, and that's what Lad McConkey is. So I'm all in on him, and I think he can be an immediate contributor. And you are as well?
Yeah.
Totally in.
Yeah.
Okay. Not so totally in, and Jalen Polk of Washington, picked 37th overall to the Patriots. I don't know, man. I'm just not really a big Jalen Polk guy. Not great breakaway speed. Seems awful sluggish at times. Gets jammed real easy in press man. He has great hands, for a positive. I'm just not real big on Polk. I don't love the landing spot. There's just simply other guys who I'd rather take over him where he'll likely go, in a rookie draft. So I don't have a whole ton to put into Jalen Polk. I don't know what kind of work you did on him. So why don't you go ahead and take the reins on Jalen Polk? Uh-oh. That's a long pause.
Nothing really stands out that's excellent about Jalen Polk. He does some things well. 4.5 combine speed.
That's fine.
Good build, 6'1", 205 pounds. Demario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, KJ Osborne, the other wide receivers in the Patriots room right now that I'm projecting.
It's a positive that he's got going for him.
Yeah. New QB. If you're going new regime, I like those things, but it's just there wasn't. Now, one of the things that I will say for Jalen Polk is he had in the big boy football games that Washington played, he played big. So against Oregon, 6 receptions, 118 yards and a touchdown versus Texas. 5 receptions, 122 yards and a touchdown. I like his ability to make the catches in the middle.
But I
even
think,
worse so than Lad McConkey, the separation though is an issue.
I don't think it's good. I just think there's other guys that I'm way more excited about and would rather. I don't even know. To me, wouldn't even say I'm reaching past him for these. Handful of other guys we have to talk about. I just am not a big Jalen Polk guy. And I could be wrong. I could be proved way wrong. But my honest opinion on Jalen Polk is to stay away from him and go elsewhere.
What do you think Drake May is going to be? I think that's a lot of...
But see, that's where it's... I believe in Drake May. I like Drake May. I don't think he's going to be an immediate impact quarterback with what he has, and that kind of reflects on having someone like Jalen Polk. I just don't think he's going to be that great, and I think May could absolutely struggle for the first year or so until they get some guys in there, and I don't think Jalen Polk is going to be that guy. I think he's going to be a guy that they drafted, we're kind of excited about, and was like, oh, okay, maybe we shouldn't have drafted Jalen Polk. I think he ends up on a team or two and then kind of fades off, and that's just my take on Jalen Polk. I'm just not as high on him as some people tend to be.
I think he could beat out Kendrick Bourne and KJ Osborne for the number 2 wide receiver.
Sure.
Another positive for him, I'm going to say, is that Alex Van Pelt was hired, formerly from the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
I think the job that he did last year speaks for itself.
Okay.
What he was able to accomplish with what he had. Now, granted, there was good wide receivers there, but not excited about it, though. Definitely not excited about it.
Well, I think with that, all those long pauses and not sure what to say about Jalen Polk on both ends, excuse me, I think it's safe to say we can move on to somebody that I'm a little higher on than you, so this should be fun. Adonai Mitchell, out of Texas, drafted 52nd overall to the Indianapolis Colts. I think the guy's got great speed combined with a lean and lengthy build, which I love receivers with those combinations. I love the lean and lengthy built receivers, guys like Devonta Smith, etc. He's elite on the boundaries of the field. Great body control and focus. Great hands. Snags catches away from his body at a high level. I'm an AD Mitchell truther. I love where he landed. I love the talent. I think he's going to complement great. He'll be a great complement to Michael Pittman. Should have immediate impact, in my opinion. I think you're gonna defer from me a little bit, but he's a perfect example of someone I take over Jalen Polk. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, I know we differ a little bit here, so
we do and we don't. I'll give AD Mitchell the highest ceiling out of anybody that we're going to talk about today. My biggest thing that I see is comes down to effort, unfortunately.
He has, there's moments of that, man.
And the landing spot, to me, is not the best. New head coach, somebody that you're very familiar with.
Well, new-ish.
Yeah.
2 years in. I think if you go back and look just what he could be the Devonta Smith to Michael Pittman in this kind of an offense. And I like that. Maybe not right out of the gate, and you might not be seeing a whole lot of production right away because he is a rookie. And they do have Josh Downs. We can't forget that. Think of the running back core there and the amount of times that Richardson himself will run the ball. I think Adonai Mitchell can eventually develop into a guy where in the next year or two they can say, hey, we can move on from Pittman. Because I don't believe he's gotten an extension yet, right? Mm-mm. I didn't think so. So I feel like AD Mitchell can be that guy that can be, the one in an offense like this that I like. I mean, if he becomes the one in, say 2 years, that's a very worthy second round selection in a dynasty rookie draft. I'm more or less, again, I say this a lot, but sometimes you got to bet on the talent, and I like the talent of him. And I agree with you on the, there is times where he seems to hold up and pull up on plays. A little bit of lack of hustle there sometimes, I guess, is what you're getting at.
Yeah. Blocking on screens.
Sure.
There's times where there's just
it's a little
almost
soft.
No effort there.
Sure.
You can see sometimes where it feels like he's not going to get the ball by how he's running the route. And he addressed that actually at the combine. Because he was asked about his speed on some of his routes. His answer, and I don't want to say to quote him, was that he never runs any routes at full speed.
So
he likes to change gears in his routes, so take that for what it is. I think, again, highest ceiling for me here, his ability to track the deep ball and Anthony Richards' ability to just sling that thing could be dangerous. Some of his best games, Texas had some AP ranked games, Kansas and Kansas State, both those games he had over 140 yards receiving, 8 receptions in one, 10 in the other one, touchdown in each. He was not afraid of the big moments.
Nope, not at all. He tends to shine in them, quite honestly.
They went to him at the end of the Alabama game.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of potential here. I worry it's really a character issue because everything else is there. The build is there, 4.3 40. Highest ceiling for me in this group.
I love some of the stuff that I saw on tape, some of the boundary stuff. The body control and focus to me was like, could be elite level type stuff if all things, fare well and work out for AD Mitchell.
One thing in his favor real quick is that high catch rate, 16.0 average depth of target.
That's beautiful.
So they're not throwing short passes to this guy. I mean,
sure. He can be Shane Steichen's Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
I like that.
Yeah. I like the talent combined with the value of where you get him.
Do you think he could be like, what is your ceiling with him? Is this a potential? Could he be Shane's AJ Brown?
No, I think
no,
not out of the gate. I think Pittman will still kind of hold that down, but in a year or two, who knows? And in situations like this, when you're taking a guy in the second round, and you can get a guy like AD Mitchell and stick him on your bench, you might have an AJ Brown-ish kind of guy. I don't know. That's a big ceiling, but I think in a year or so he could be what Devonta Smith is kind of starting to seem to turn into. I could be really wrong there, but again, the second round, I'm going to bet on that talent. That's a phrase you're going to hear from me a lot. The eye test matters to me. Now, the eye test also matters when it comes to things like lack of effort. And I agree. I don't disagree with that. But I think that's stuff where you get guys in the NFL and you see things like that kind of fade off and change. And you hope. If not, it ain't going to work. But you hope to see that get corrected. So I guess we can move on there. Do you have anything else left on AD Mitchell? Okay, let's move on. Malachi Corley, Western Kentucky, 65th overall to the New York Jets. The king of yak. Dude's built like a running back. Incredible burst and explosiveness. Highly athletic and physical. Elite one-cut ability. Pulls away from defenders at seemingly a blink of an eye. Elite contact balance. Pushes right through leg tackles with almost ease. Small catch radius, kind of a simple route tree in college. I want to like him a lot, and I am very intrigued. The abilities and upside alone makes me just want to simply take the chance and bet on his talent, right? Again, I say that all the time. I'd take him somewhere mid-late to second round. I mean, I don't think there's a whole ton there to get in the, you got Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Right? I mean, who else is there to really, he has a chance, kind of like
Mike Williams.
Yeah. Mike Williams is there. You're right. But man, I'm not big on Mike Williams. I think Corley is a guy after a year or two, you might be really happy that you just took the chance. And he's that freakishly athletic, in my opinion. Like I said, King of Yak, I'm pretty sure that's what he goes by. I'm like self-proclaimed King of Yak. But I like Malachi Corley. What say you?
Yeah. Some concerns. He was very productive. Western Kentucky, 4.45 40 at Pro Day. Did not go to the Combine. Presumably you have Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball.
Sure.
We know he can support 3 wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. You see a guy that you think they're going to scheme plays up for a guy like this.
I would think.
Like, swing routes and stuff like that.
They improved their O-line, added Tyron Smith and Simpson. They drafted that Penn State kid too.
Mm-hmm.
Should be a lot better on the offensive line. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have time to throw in this offense. Should be able to run the ball with Breece Hall. So I think there's going to be some open passing. You're catching passes from one of the best QB. And maybe it's just in the back of my head. One thing that worries me is I presumably am guessing that Allen Lazard will be released.
Yeah.
Or do you think there's any chance that Aaron Rodgers still wants his guys there?
I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers. He likes to have his guys there.
Also, he's never really had a rookie wide receiver.
No.
That he's...
And look, this might be a thing where
those are just the concerns. I think the talent's there. When you watch the tape...
Sure.
Unfortunately, there's no big boy football there. They didn't really play against a lot of...
That's a concern. That's a real concern.
I'll give them the Ohio State game, playing from behind a lot, but still 8 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown. Louisiana Tech, he just went off. It was ridiculous. 200-yard receiving game, 3 touchdowns.
He is built like a running back.
He is.
It's interesting. What he does when he makes the first guy miss is like, man, oh man. Can it translate to the NFL though? I don't know. I'm willing to take the chance. Would you take that chance like early to mid second? More mid? More mid.
I'm late second, early third for me.
Are you really?
I just don't know if we're getting,
It kind of depends on how the draft goes. I mean, how your particular draft goes. I'm more willing to, I don't want to get off subject here, but I'm more willing to take a chance on a guy like Malachi Corley than I would some of these running backs. Just because I don't tend to put many eggs in the basket of the running back position. I would just be more prone to take a guy like Corley and bet on that freakish yak stuff that he can do with his build and just that explosiveness, man. He's so highly athletic, super physical, and good luck leg tackle on that guy, man. The open field ability is absurd. I'd take a crack on him. I think a little earlier than what you would. Closer to mid than late for me. And I think the third, if you can get him in the third, I feel like you're getting a bit of a steal at that point. And you almost have to.
The matchup with Aaron Rodgers sounds great.
It does. It does.
Are you getting a Tyler Lockett type wide receiver? Or are you getting a gadget Rondale Moore type player? I guess is my.
That's actually that's a great comparison. I like that. I like that a lot. And if he does turn out to be Rondale Moore, I'm sorry to everyone that I have maybe potentially convinced to draft Malachi Corley. So yeah, I would take a chance. You would take a chance just later than me.
Later than you.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not avoiding him if he falls to the spot that I like, but yeah, I'm more third round.
Okay. Well, I'm not taking him over this next guy. I can tell you that right now. It's Jermaine Burton out of Alabama, 80th overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. Elite speed and explosiveness. The ball instincts are just out of control. The ability to contort and track balls to the point on difficult catches is fantastic. Destroys off-man coverage at stems with intentional route running, a lot like Lad McConkey in that sense. And even with a smaller frame, he still makes tough catches away from his body. He's one of my favorites for sure. I'd take him earlier than most. And the landing spot in Cincinnati, I actually like, because I think Higgins leaves the team after this year. I don't think he's going to be there much longer. And I believe in the kid's ability and talent, and I just think he can be a high-level receiver, in the NFL. And he'd be my next receiver gone, quite honestly, after Lad McConkey. My next receiver gone after Lad McConkey. I would take him over A.D. Mitchell.
I don't know. That's really, really close. I can't even honestly.
Well, he'd be the next
right
receiver
now.
taken. So you're not counting any other positions. To me, Jermaine Burton is the next receiver off the board after Lad McConkey. That would be, let's see, over Jalen Polk. That would be over A.D. Mitchell and over Corley.
Yeah, A.D. Mitchell is the one. Because like I said, I believe
AD is
A.D.
your
Mitchell
hang-up.
has
Okay.
the highest ceiling. The other ones, yes.
So what's your upside and downside for Jermaine Burton? Because I think he could be a seriously good receiver for a long time.
Upside is the landing spot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's a great landing spot.
This is a familiar theme with a lot of these guys, but Joe Burrow, you have that elite level quarterback throwing you the ball. I don't even know if I believe T. Higgins is going to be there this year. And if he is,
that's true.
I think, like you said, definitely next year he's gone. High-powered offense with Joe Burrow. And Jermaine Burton, when you watch him, he looks like an NFL wide receiver.
Oh, he does.
The separation is there. 4.45 40. 38.5-inch vertical. Which is pretty good. Decent build. A lot to like about Jermaine Burton, but I guess the landing spot is where really sells it for me.
I like his skill set for that specific team. I like what Cincinnati does as far as pushing the ball down the field. I think he's a guy who's going to see a lot more opportunities than we think. Cincinnati tends to run a lot more 3 receiver sets than I think people are remembering. Think Tyler Boyd with a healthy Chase and Higgins. He got his due, and I think Jermaine Burton is a much better receiver than Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd's serviceable. I think Burton can be well beyond serviceable. Yes? No?
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not going to downplay.
I'm not saying right out of the gate. Give me your negatives. What are your cons?
I think
here?
he's very comparable to Tyler Boyd.
Oh, I think he can be much better.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Fair enough.
I really do.
Yeah, I guess so. Your ceiling is much higher on him than me. I think I love the landing spot. I think there's a lot of potential for targets there, even with T. Higgins there. I agree with you on that. A lot of 3 wide receiver sets.
I don't have a comp because I'm afraid to give a comp.
I don't do the comps a lot anyhow.
Yeah.
I'm not a professional scout.
Right. So I don't want to sit here and make people think, this guy's going to be like Larry Fitzgerald. I like the landing spot, and I do genuinely like his talent quite a bit, actually. And, well, like I said, enough to where he'd be my next receiver gone after McConkey.
I'm definitely not taking McConkey, AD, then Burton for me.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, it's one player away. That's fine. Again, it's talent, landing spot. I mean, some of those, like the contorted body readjustment to like the point of the ball catches that dude makes boggle my brain, because he's not a huge receiver. He's not massive.
6 foot, 200 pounds.
He's built like DJ Moore. He's not DJ Moore. Let me be very clear. He's not DJ Moore, but he's built like him. And some of the high point, like I said, contort his body, spin around the other way, balls away from his body with the defender in his face, with his back to the end zone, and catches a ball like that. For that kind of size, to me, it's an eye test thing. And when you couple that with a landing spot with a team like Cincinnati, where Higgins could be rolling out this year or next, they run a lot of 3 receiver sets, and you take all that stuff and you compile it with his abilities, I think he could be something fairly special. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to a guy that I don't like nearly as much as Jermaine Burton. Let's move on to Roman Wilson out of Michigan. He was the 84th overall pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, I'm not a big fan, man. I'm just not real big on Roman Wilson. I'll put him in the same boat as Jalen Polk. Tends to be easily obstructed in his routes, struggles with physicality. Overall, weak, questionable hands. I don't have much really on Roman Wilson for the positive, just because like I said, I feel the same way kind of about Polk. I just don't really buy the talent at the NFL level, and there's just other guys I would rather take chances on. So, Ty, you're a Steelers guy. You've probably looked at him much more than I have. I'd like to get your pros and cons here on Roman Wilson.
More cons than pros.
Okay.
Great speed, 4.39 40.
Not going to be a homer.
No. So a pro for him is that he had pretty good production in 3 years in college. The best years in 2023, obviously 48 receptions, 789 yards, 12 touchdowns. I think the landing spot is poor.
Same. Agreed. Strong agree.
I think this is going to be a run-heavy team with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator. I think that's what Tomlin wants out of them.
Mm-hmm. He's going to have kind of immediate opportunity, but I just, like, as far as being on the field.
Yes.
But is he going to see...
We talked about this earlier, though. Like, I don't know if he is.
Okay.
And that is nothing against Roman Wilson, but, like, I can't sit here watching his tape and say, oh, that guy's going to beat out Van Jefferson or even Quez Watkins, to be honest with you.
Don't get me started on Quez Watkins, but keep going.
Fair enough, but, I mean, one of the biggest pet peeves on Quez Watkins is his hands, and Roman Wilson's hands are far from great.
That's fair.
Quez Watkins has better size. Vance Jefferson definitely has better size. I don't like the landing spot. Even with better quarterback play from Wilson or Fields, whoever is there, I don't think this is a team that can support 3 wide receivers, and no. I don't know if he's fantasy relevant enough as a wide receiver 3, which is what I'm projecting him at with Pittsburgh. Hopefully I'm a Steelers fan. Hopefully it's a pleasant surprise, but
okay. Well, honestly, I don't really want to waste much more time on him. I don't want to really waste much more time on the next guy. We can move on if that's okay with you.
Yep.
I'm just not big on Roman Wilson. I mean, there's going to be people that differ from our thoughts, but yeah, just not real high on the guy. Plenty of guys I'd rather take over him. So next, I guess we'll go to the guy that I don't know that I'd take over Roman Wilson. Jelen McMillan out of Washington, 92nd overall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Struggles catching away from his frame, low play strength, below average burst and footwork, and his traits seem to be below the elite tier, but he is a pretty diverse route runner. Great speed as his route develops. Again, I put him in the same category as Jalen Polk and Roman Wilson as far as how I feel about where or if I would even draft him. I just don't like the talent or landing spot. There's just other players I'd rather take a chance on. Ty, I'll go ahead and pass it off to you.
I like Jalen McMillan more than Roman Wilson.
Okay. More than Polk?
No.
Okay. Go on.
Nothing really stands out. One of the things that I really didn't like was the regression from 2022 to 2023.
Okay.
Granted, he missed 2 games, but you're going from 1,098 yards receiving to 559, 79 receptions to only 45. Don't love the landing spot. Mike Evans, Godwin, Trey Palmer, already in that receiver room. So I'm not really in love with that.
And I still like Trey Palmer.
I do too. And they lost Dave Canales to the Panthers. He's their new head coach. So
yep.
The guy that replaced him is Liam Cohen, who was Kentucky's offensive coordinator last year. And they averaged 29 points per game in the FBS, which is good. It's hard to get excited about this, I guess.
It is. And for me, it's a combination of not loving the landing spot and not buying his talent. I just, again, right there with Polk and Wilson, I'm staying away. And I would rather throw a bit of a dart at somebody than even put him on my roster. I feel like, to me personally, all three of those guys are kind of wasted picks. I just, if you feel the same way I do about his talent and translating into the NFL, and then you couple it with where he landed, I just, like, what's the point? I would rather take
the deeper guy with more upside.
Yeah, the guy who maybe has about the same level of talent, but just lands on a much better situation than what he did. Kind of like our next guy, Luke McCaffery out of Rice, 100th overall to the Commanders, elite pedigree. I don't think anyone will disagree with that. I love that he has an understanding of like the quarterback position while playing wide receiver. Easily identifies, when he's the hot route, and he gets available quick, man, and he does it with ease. He did play for Rice, but I'm not going to hold that against him. Super threat with yards after the catch, man. He's fantastic in that category. Doesn't shy from contact. He excels at contested catches. Quick burst off the line of scrimmage and has great ball skills. He's got to improve his stem work and technique, but I think he will. And I love the grit and drive that goes along with McCaffrey's skill set. And it's why I think he'll overcome the downfalls. I believe the landing spot is just fine as long as Daniels is a viable starting quarterback. And I'm going to bank on talent and pedigree, and I'll take McCaffery over Polk, Wilson, McMillan, and even Corley.
Agreed.
Yeah. You like the landing spot?
Love it.
Does playing at Rice bother you at all?
No.
Because I know you're more of a stats guy, but...
I am, and I watched some of the Nebraska tape too. But no.
How did you feel about him when he played a higher-end school like Nebraska in comparison to, playing for Rice?
It's hard to say because he was younger then. I mean, you're talking his freshman year.
Sure.
It's hard. That's tough.
How did you feel about him overall this year?
I think his landing spot is really the winning.
Does McLaurin last much longer there? First of all, and even a third guy, like when the play breaks down, don't you want to have Luke McCaffery on the field with Jaden Daniels rolling out to his right?
Yeah,
he just feels like the ultimate. The play broke down guy. And he's a guy that I want on my team on the field. I think he'll find the field pretty quick.
I think he beats out Diami Brown.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're looking at Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and then him, preferably in like a slot type position. And he had production running the ball too. Not a lot.
Sure.
But 12 attempts, 148 yards. It's a nice average.
Mm-hmm.
15 attempts last year for 117 yards. Which, for whatever reason, we're going to bring him up again twice in this podcast. Rondale Moore with a higher ceiling. Cliff Kingsbury, you're going to get that Cardinals offense that you've seen a couple years ago. It's going to be spread wide open, spread out.
Yep.
I think if you can get this guy in those one-on-one matchups, he could make a killing. I
think he's worth reaching for. Like, if you're sitting at a spot and you're like, man, McCaffrey's still there, but he's still down there a ways, but you're kind of back and forth, counting the players and seeing who would still be available at your next pick. I think he's a guy who it's worth just taking him right there.
Yeah.
If you're questioning him coming back, just take him. I think betting on the pedigree, I would take him, like I said, above some of these other guys, man. Polk, Wilson, McMillan, Corley. I'd start getting hard pressed over Adonai Mitchell. I'd start getting hard pressed over Burton. But I think you can make the argument. Can you make that argument?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not
Again,
that crazy.
I'm very high on this landing spot, though.
Yeah. Yep. That's a big deal. It matters a lot.
If you switch it up and Luke McCaffrey goes to the Colts, maybe I don't feel as good about it. But with this offense being spread out like this,
yeah,
I like it a lot.
Me too. I really like it. So yeah, I'm taking him in the second round. I don't think it's a very hard choice.
No.
Some people might, end of second, early third now. I don't think you take that chance with that kind of pedigree, that kind of landing spot, and that kind of talent.
Somebody's going to take that risk too. So if you want him, go get him.
Yep, I completely agree.
I've already had a dynasty startup where I missed him. Should have taken him around earlier.
Sorry, buddy.
Right.
All right, that's about all we got for wide receivers. So let's move on to the day 2 running backs. Jonathon Brooks out of Texas, 46 overall to the Carolina Panthers. I don't do a lot of running back stuff. Let me rephrase that. I haven't had a chance to get into running backs enough yet. I've been so hyper focused on receivers and quarterbacks. I did get into Jonathon Brooks and Benson a little bit. So what I can say from what I saw so far, he's clearly a smooth route runner with good vision, not super explosive, but he does seem to have good patience and feel. And downfall that I noticed seems to struggle a little bit with arm tackles. Like he doesn't seem super difficult to bring down. And in the NFL, that's going to be a problem. But you dove into running backs much more than I did. So I'll essentially hand this off to you and let you take Jonathon Brooks from here. So go ahead.
To me, the only thing about Jonathon Brooks that is a concern is that ACL.
Okay.
And from what research I've done, it's a clean tear. I think this is your best chance at a 3-down running back in this draft class, hands down. I don't even really think it's that close. The size is there, 6 foot, 216 pounds.
Sure.
The production was there, 1,139 yards, 10 touchdowns, go with 286 receiving yards. He's got great vision.
Does he immediately, do you feel like it's immediate impact? Like, does he just immediately above Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard?
To me, yes.
Because I think Chuba's already ahead of Miles. I don't think Chuba Hubbard's that great. So are you thinking Brooks just knocks him right off and takes the spot?
New regime coming in. I think this is their running back. This is who they're going to go with.
Is it possible Miles Sanders is 3rd on that depth chart?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so weird.
I don't know what happened, but
I don't know what happened either, man.
But no, he does. Jonathon Brooks does everything well at the running back position. He's elusive. Okay. He's got great vision. He's got good hands, caught 28 of 32 targets. Good in pass blocking. There is a lot of tape, too, against big boy schools. So with Alabama, didn't have his best game, 14 attempts, 57 yards, and a touchdown. But if you watch that game, his pass blocking was elite. And he also had a huge play to save that game for them on a fumble that he was a really heads-up play.
Sure.
High football IQ. And against the other AP-ranked teams, Kansas, who was ranked 24th when they played Texas, 21 attempts, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns. Oklahoma, 129 yards and a touchdown. Kansas State, 112 yards and a touchdown. Saying he is the guy. He's ahead of Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders. Dave Canals is coming over from Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a very positive thing, what he was able to do with Rachaad White. Knowing that Jonathon Brooks is a very capable pass catcher out of the backfield, I think this is your 3-down running back rookie. If you need a rookie that has the potential to be a 3-down back, you're struggling, take a reach on Jonathon Brooks. If that's the position that you need.
Late first.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you can get him early second, be happy.
Yeah,
kind of what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, the Panthers O-line should be improved this year. They brought in Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis to fill out the guard position. Josh Nijman at tackle. And from a running back perspective, Iquanu is a great run backer. His PFF grade is not good as a pass protector, but as a run blocker,
oh yeah,
great.
No, Icky's the real deal as far as this. Yeah, you're right. He's a hell of a run blocker.
This kid doesn't put the ball on the ground. 266 career touches per fumble. Only Trey Benson was better out of this class. Jonathon Brooks, all in, late first.
Okay. All right, good deal. Tyler loves Jonathon Brooks, everybody. I would listen to Ty when he talks about running backs. Moving on to Trey Benson out of Florida State, 66th overall to the Arizona Cardinals. Again, I didn't dive as deep as I'd like to quite yet. But from what I did look at, and I have more to go, but from the little bit that I saw, powerful runner, compact build, exceptional lower strength. He seems to identify lanes pretty quickly. And when he does, great burst through the holes with ability to get skinny, which that's something I like. Shown he can work in the passing game. He seems to certainly be able to pass protect, which should keep him on the field. And I like the landing spot with Connor kind of nearing the end of his career. And if that happens this year with Benson's ability to stay back and pass block, I mean, you could see him take that spot over with a Connor injury. It's not anything to me it's not a crazy notion, Connor getting hurt. So if Connor gets hurt, are you all in on Trey Benson, or does it not even matter if Connor gets hurt, or do you just not really care much for Trey Benson? What's your thoughts there?
I like Trey Benson a lot. I think Connor matters. I think Trey Benson is going to have some great years with the Cardinals. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if it's this year.
Not yet.
But I do think he's going to have some great years. Unless Connor gets hurt, yes, because I don't think there's anybody that's going to.
No one's going to. I don't see anyone there taking.
I doubt they really go into much of a committee. I mean, Dermacado, he could get some touches.
I think he's just a guy.
There,
he's just a guy, in my opinion, who had some opportunities.
One thing about Trey Benson, because he watched him, because he said about the size, this kid is actually 6'1", 223 pounds. And he moves like that. Like the juice and the explosiveness is there.
Yeah. That lower strength is unreal.
4.39 40,
yes.
Elite running back speed.
Mm-hmm.
Easily. And I love Jonathon Brooks. This is your high ceiling. Just because of the explosiveness. Great landing spot. If he gets work out of the gate, I'm assuming it's at the third down back. You can't really have a much better spot to be a third down back than the Arizona Cardinals, because there's probably going to be lots of third downs.
Yes. Yes.
And you have Kyler Murray throwing you the ball. Drew Petzig returns as an offensive coordinator. So what we've seen last year from the Cardinals, barring subpar quarterback play, is what I expect to see. So I think there's a lot of room for screens, and to me, it's not a concern. Because to me, he has proven he's had two very good back-to-back years. But one thing that people bring up with Trey Benson is the knee injury that he suffered in 2020, where he had an ACL tear, an MCL tear, an LCL tear, a thigh hamstring tear, and a knee meniscus all in one shot. So it was brutal. Ooh. That being said, when you watch this guy's tape, the juice is there, the explosiveness is there. So to me, he's proven that that's not going to be a factor.
Okay, so with all that said, Jonathon Brooks is clearly he's your top back.
He's my one.
Is Benson right behind him at two?
Yeah.
There's
a gap after that.
Okay.
I like Jonathon Brooks more than Benson, but they're the top two, and then there's a drop off for me after that considerably.
Okay. Well, the drop-off kind of begins with Blake Corum out of Michigan, 83rd overall to the LA Rams. Like I said, I haven't dove deep enough here on running back, and I actually haven't got into much Blake Corum at all, nor have I the next guy we're going to talk about. So I'm going to actually hand both these off to you. So let's start with Blake Corum with the Rams. Tyler, go ahead, buddy.
You can look at this stat line. Because there is high-level production for 3 years from Blake Corum. And you can look at those numbers and your eyes can get big. 952 yards, 11 touchdowns in 21. 1,463 yards, 18 touchdowns in 22. 1,245 yards, 27 touchdowns in 2023. You can look at those numbers and your eyes can just get big.
And then they shrink when you see he's right behind Kyren Williams.
Also, some other telltale signs. His average yards per carry went down every year. 2021, it was 6.6. 2022, it was 5.9. 2023, it was 4.8.
Interesting.
All those sound good. You're running behind Michigan's offensive line in John Harbaugh's system.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
You can make the argument that you ran behind the best offensive line in the country last year.
Yep. So are you... Just going off what is Blake Corum a guy? Are you just avoiding Blake Corum?
No, but I don't think I'm taking him where a lot of other people are. So I don't see me landing Blake Corum in a lot of leagues. He'd have to fall.
Be a little more appealing if you had a team with Kyren Williams already on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to me, he's very similar to Kyren Williams. And I do wonder if Sean McVay is drafting Blake Corum because of those games when Kyren Williams got hurt last year.
Yep.
Because I don't think McVay is one of the few coaches in the league that doesn't if he has a guy that he's going to run, he'll use him as a 3-down guy.
Again, all the work. All the work.
Yes, he wants that guy, and I don't think he liked having to use a committee, so I think if he feels Kyron Williams gets hurt, Blake Corum comes in.
Mm-hmm. So he'd be a great handcuff out of the gate. Say you're on a contending team with Kyron Williams, I will draft Blake Corum in that instance. That actually might be a great draft pick, especially if he just kind of falls on your lap. Like, well, I've already grabbed 2 guys I like. I have Kyron Williams. I'm a contending team. I think that's a great piece to put on your bench. Do you have much more on him?
No, if you have Kyron Williams, I think definitely.
So we agree there.
Be
for
worth
sure.
having this guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Worst missed tackle rate out of all eligible running backs.
He's almost a strict power runner.
And 146 career touches per fumble. So when we talked about Jonathan Brooks with the 266, and even Trey Benson, who is way better, 348 career touches per fumble. This guy puts the ball on the ground considerably more than them. If you got Kyron Williams, get the handcuff. If not, he's got to fall to me.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, let's move on to MarShawn Lloyd out of USC, 88th overall to the Green Bay Packers. Like I said, I'm going to hand these last 2 off to you. So go ahead.
Some of the weirdest tape I've ever watched in my life is on MarShawn Lloyd. I'm just going to say that.
Okay.
And just to sum it up, kind of to encapsulate, there's a highlight against UCLA where you can watch that kind of sums up MarShawn Lloyd to me. They're down inside their own 15, I'm going to say off the top of my head. Backfield gets blown up. UCLA comes in. He makes a guy miss, makes another guy miss. Third guy gets an arm on him, pops the ball out, picked up by UCLA, returned for a touchdown. That is MarShawn Lloyd. In a nutshell to me. This guy does stuff sometimes that just makes you, it blows your mind. And other times it is like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
The build is there, 5'9", 220 pounds, 4'4", 640 at the combine. Good pass catcher out of the backfield. He hit the design hole on only 57% of his runs, which is worrisome to me at the next level. Like he always like, go to the hole.
Right. Landing spot?
I like the landing spot.
Okay.
Josh Jacobs signed a deal, but
Dillon's still there.
A.J. Dillon is still there. I think
they're falling out of love with A.J. Dillon, though.
And I would.
Yeah, it feels that way. So is this an instance very much like what we just talked about with Corum? If you have an A.J. Dillon or if you have Jacobs, you might be a little more inclined to snag someone like MarShawn Lloyd. Especially more leaning on the Jacobs side.
I like MarShawn Lloyd way more than Corum. Not way more, but I like him more than Corum. I'm taking him higher than Corum. I think there's a lot more upside there. My worry stems from, like I said, he goes to the design hole on 57% of runs. 36 career touches per fumble. That's atrocious.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
If you carry the ball 2 games, you carry it 18 times. You're fumbling 1 time. I mean, that's putting the ball on the ground 6 or 7 times a year.
Yeah.
You can't. That's got to be something that improves.
I need a reason to have these last 2 guys, man.
He has a lot of. Another thing is he had 3.1 yards average before contact at USC. So at an NFL level, when a guy that wants to bounce outside all the time, that is used to having all this room, that's going to have people right in his face more, that fumbles a lot more upside there with MarShawn Lloyd, because some of the stuff that he does with his elusiveness is just insane. I like the landing spot. I think there is a path to major opportunity. Does he get there? Can they turn him into the player that
there's a running back that we'll be talking about in the next show that I would rather have over both of these guys that we just talked about, Corum and Lloyd both. I don't need to get into that now, but I need a good reason to draft either one of these guys. I need to have Kyron Williams in order to take Corum, and I need to have most likely Josh Jacobs to take MarShawn Lloyd. Like, I just don't. I feel like, again, you're sitting at a spot. There's probably something a little more useful out of the gate in this moment where someone like Corum and Lloyd would be available. Do you agree with that? Like you have to have a reason to take them unless they just kind of fall and it's like, oh, well, I guess I'll just take him.
I agree with you on the Corum. I want Kyron Williams if I'm going to take Corum. I don't really have any interest with him. Or I want I want to have Kyron Williams on my roster if I'm going to take Blake Corum. MarShawn Lloyd, if he falls to the right spot.
Because of the freakish things that you see.
I'll take that chance on him. I'll take that chance on that talent, but a lot has to improve for him to get to that fantasy relevance.
Okay, fair enough. That's it for running backs. Let's move on to day 2 tight ends, and we start with Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State, who was 53rd overall to the Commanders. I didn't dive deep much on tight end yet, but I definitely plan to because it's a position that I like to know a lot about. I like to get the jump on people in fantasy football on tight ends before the jump is known to get. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With that said, he's got a great frame. He's pretty physical, run after the catch. Above average footwork, not super explosive. Does tend to struggle with drops at times, and he seems to lack some hand strength, especially when contested. In a nutshell, I wouldn't say I'm high on Ben Sinnott. I'd take a chance probably somewhere in the 3rd round of rookie drafts because I do think he has some honest potential to develop into something potentially pretty good. And at that time in the draft, when you'd most likely get him, why not? Why not? If I don't have Kyron Williams, I might take Ben Sinnott over Blake Corum, depending on the position. You know what I mean? It's kind of a, is he just falling to you kind of thing? It doesn't necessarily have to be a position of need thing because I think having a couple good 2 to 3 good tight ends is a good thing. Where are you at on Ben Sinnott?
Higher.
Go for it.
This kid's a freak in some aspects. Now, the 40 time isn't great. You're talking a 4.68 40, which is fine for a tight end, but
sure,
a 40-inch vertical.
It's a good landing spot, too.
Few wide receivers in the combine that hit a 40-inch
Yeah, that's pretty
vertical.
ridiculous.
I think he's versatile in a sense that he can run routes from all 3 levels. Because he did at Kansas State. I keep coming back to this because there's a lot of players that we're talking about that are taken by the Commanders. Cliff Kingsbury.
Yep.
Open offense. Zach Ertz is 33.
Right. Landing spot.
Logan
Zach
Thomas
Ertz.
retired.
Yep.
If something happens to Zach Ertz, I still think Zach Ertz can play at that level. And I don't think Ben Sinnott pushes Zach Ertz unless Zach Ertz has an injury. But if something happens to Zach Ertz, I think this guy's a stash. I'd take him in the late 2nd.
Do you worry about lack of work in Cliff Kingsbury's offense for tight ends?
Yes.
Okay.
Just because of what we've seen previously. Yeah, there is some concern there. My other thought process is, you drafted Jada Daniel, the young QB. I don't think it's this year. Like I said, I think at this point, Zach Ertz has to get hurt
He'll
for
get the
Ben
nod.
Sinnott to
Sure.
come in.
Sure.
But with that athletic ability, this kid could translate into a great player sitting behind Zach Ertz. The Cliff Kingsbury thing is concerning. It's good that you brought that up. But man,
you really, I guess I need to look into it again. So focused on quarterback and receiver, I've definitely relied on you a little more.
I think one of the
for
things
running
with
back and
Cliff
tight end.
Kingsbury, though, with that athletic ability, that Cliff Kingsbury wouldn't be afraid to say, okay, line up in the H position and run a route from here. And
Sure.
We'll try to get you open. Or I think there's potential for that.
Okay. All right. So you would take, you're definitely more in on, maybe I need to look into him more, I guess.
There wasn't a ton of production at the college level. Now, last year he had a really good season, 676 yards, 6 touchdowns. He lined up in a lot of different spots in Kansas State. And I have to wonder if Washington seen that and was like, well, hey, we could
Sure. They're not exactly overflowing with playmakers.
Well,
Want
they
to take
could
a
just say,
shot?
no, we're going to give all those to Luke McCaffery.
How great would that be? Okay, that's Ben Sinnott. Moving on to Tip Reiman out of Illinois, 82nd overall to the Arizona Cardinals. And Tyler, I'm handing it completely off to you because I've not even watched an ounce of film.
Well, there's not a lot.
Okay.
So in 2020, there is, because he played a lot, but I mean, in 2022, 19 receptions, 174 yards, and 1 touchdown. 2023, 19 receptions, 203 yards, 3 touchdowns. So not a lot of receiving production there. I think this kid could be a good real life
Sure.
football player.
Sure.
I think they're going to use him in a lot of their bigger packages as a blocker.
Yep.
Trey McBride's a guy there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly like just the landing spot alone, and I do know that he's definitely more of a blocking style tight end. I don't.
The film I would say to watch would be against Penn State because you got a high level school with a good defense, and he held his own blocking around the perimeter.
Okay.
But for fantasy purposes,
Yeah.
This is not somebody that I'm, like I said, good real life football player. I don't know that I'm. If you're presuming a 4-round rookie draft, I don't know that I'm drafting Tip Reiman at all.
I'm probably not either. Okay, what an exciting way to end the
I'm
day
sorry,
2.
that's just how it shook out.
What an exciting way to end our day 2 rookies. That's all we have today, everybody. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully we continue to keep getting a little better at this and a little smoother at this because we do feel like we have honest information that we can, really convey to you guys to help you get some championships under your belt, especially as we get going into this more where we're going to have some real solid like dynasty stuff for you. So please stay with us if you even like it a little bit because we think this is going to get a lot better. So that's it. Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you for the next show for our day 3 rookies. Bye, everybody.